Welcome to Be Bold Branding, where we discuss the power of differentiating yourself through your own unique story and standout personal brand. What's the difference between an intentional brand and an accidental one? Well, one of them will help you become known for what you want to be known for, and the other leaves you vulnerable to confusion and pure chaos. Today, we're discussing the mistakes that lead to an accidental brand and the maneuvers you can make to make your brand intentional.
I love this. I'm not supposed to go off script, but I love this because we see a lot of accidental brands. We just do. So before we get started, look, remember to head to BrandFaceGuide.com and download our free guide to building a profitable personal brand. Hear what I said, profitable personal brand. It's full of great advice and tips to help you and change how you're seen so you can charge what you're worth, which is what we're all about.
Yep. So we've heard many branding gurus say that your customer is the one who determines your brand. If you've listened to us for more than 5 minutes, you probably heard us say that. And we also follow it up with, that's nonsense.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. Yes, of course, your prospects will decide whether or not to do business with you, but they should never be allowed to set your value. Unfortunately, many people allow that to happen.
Yeah, why would you leave your value perception in the hands of someone else when you can 100% control it? It's all in your power. Think of personal branding like painting a picture. You're the artist, you hold the brush. Now picture what you want the world to see. What clear message do you have that you want to convey, and how do you want people to feel about you, right? When they see that painting, what are you soliciting? It's exactly the way you want to approach building your brand, all right? So exactly what steps you do to make sure that your brand is intentional versus accidental. We're glad you asked. Here are the 4 most important things that you have to do.
I heard that question in my head, didn't you? All right. Number 1 is determine your space. In other words, what do you do differently than anyone else in your space? You already know there are hundreds, thousands, even millions of people who provide the type of products or services that you provide. So what makes you different from all the other people who are doing what you're doing? This goes back to a story before BrandFace. In fact, it was the conception of BrandFace. When I was sitting at my desk one day and I realized I was doing a lot of different things for a lot of different types of clients. And on one hand, I thought, oh, this is great. I can do business with anybody. And then I thought, oh my God, this is terrible. I can do business with anybody, because what that meant is I was no longer special. I was no longer specialized. And when you're not special or specialized, when you're not different, then people don't see you as being a unique solution. They see you like they see everybody else. And that's actually when I sat down with myself, those other voices in my head, and I said, hey, what is it that you really love to do? What's the passion in your professional life? And it was always personal branding since probably 1988. And so that's when BrandFace was born. And at that moment, I realized, hey, if I go this route and I really narrow in on what I want to do, then I'll probably lose some business. Well, I can tell you that I gained far more business than I ever lost, right? When I figured out that day that I was sitting in my office and I thought I can do business with everybody, I realized I was just a commodity at that point, which makes perfect sense. You never want to put yourself in a position where someone can simply just make a list of your services and then compare those same services to a competitor and say, oh, well, this one's cheaper. I'll go with that one. That is the kiss of death. When that happens, you have completely missed the mark on value.
Yeah, agreed. And it's a very poignant because we're doing this live today, but I had a meeting with a banker earlier today. And let me tell you what I liked about him. He came in, he shook his hand. He'd already presented some information with his brand. He shook my hand and we sat down and he says, let me tell you how we're different. It was the very first words out of his mouth. And if you want some help with this, we put several questions that are going to help you figure this out inside our profitable personal brand guide that's going to lead you in the right direction towards determining exactly what it is. So please do yourself a favor and go check that out. When it comes to the space that you want to command, you don't know your space. Your prospects don't either. Let me repeat that so it's clear. If you don't know your space, your prospects will never figure that out, and you won't be able to lead them to that. And that's going to lead us to number 2, which is define your perfect prospect. Okay. Step number 2. If you don't know exactly who you're best suited to serve, you'll find yourself floundering at best, and you're trying to please everyone at worst, which is terrible. And that is how you end up with an accidental brand. If you don't know what you stand for, someone else gets to make that decision for you. They get to just lump you in with everybody else. And most of the time, it'll be a perception that you don't want, or a client that makes you question or even doubt yourself.
Yeah, that's what happened to me a number of years back when BrandFace was born, and I was faced with that question and had to really walk through the weeds and find the path. And I realized that exact same thing. All right, that brings us to number 3 way to make your brand intentional versus accidental, and that is build your story with great clarity. In other words, be very clear in both the message you put out there and the image that you put out there that aligns with that message. Starting with this very important point. I know you've heard this if you've listened to us at all. Make sure you answer the 5 critical questions that every personal brand must answer. They're pretty simple, right? Exactly who do you serve? How do you serve them? What qualifies you to serve them? How does it make their life better? And what makes you different? Hey, hit pause, rewind that 10 seconds, write those questions down, okay?
And put thought into them.
Exactly. It's like the story I just told you about realizing that I was no longer special in my business. And as soon as I focused on what I truly wanted and I answered those 5 questions with great clarity, which is where they came from, by the way, not only could I clearly see the direction my business was going in, my prospects could see themselves in that direction. Big point, guys.
That's huge. Now you're heading in the same direction. That's awesome. Number 4, charge what you're worth. People, we work with a lot of coaches and creators and experts across many different industries. And over the last decade, about 90% of them tell us that they're not charging what they're worth. We've been there too. I know exactly how that feels, right? And so do y'all. And every time it's because their brand was not built to showcase their value, to be able to articulate that value. And showcasing your value before you meet people is the number 1 benefit of building a brand. They're going to look you up before they ever call you, because calling people and talking to them person to person is a commitment that most people don't want to make until they know.
Sure.
And when you're able to walk into a room where people are already familiar with you and what you stand for, then you've created a brand that will literally make you millions of dollars, millions, and without chasing every other squirrel that enters that space. All right. So let's recap.
All right.
Here are the 4 important things that you need to do to avoid accidental brand and build an intentional one. Number 1, determine your space. What do you want to be known for?
Number 2, define your perfect prospect. Exactly who do you serve and how can you help them get what they want and need?
Yep. Number 3, build your brand story with great clarity. Very important. Start with your brand message, then proceed to your brand image, making sure that they align with a powerful, clear, and compelling story.
And 4, finally, it's what we're known for, guys. Charge what you're worth. This one can really only happen when you've built a brand that showcases your unique value. Then you have the brand and the confidence to charge what you're worth.
Yep, we covered this topic and more in our free guide. We're constantly working and cracking this code for people, and we can help you do the same thing. It's the ultimate guide building a profitable personal brand, and you can pick it up for free at BrandFaceGuide.com. That's BrandFaceGuide.com. And remember, a profitable personal brand will help you change how you're seen so you can charge what you're worth. Until next time, be bold, folks, especially with your brand.
Brought to you by BrandFace, the only comprehensive personal brand building system across the globe.